Okay, and welcome back. We are going to do our final part 4 of how to fix a low appraisal when that comes in. In the previous 3 parts to that, we discussed 6 different options that you have to fix a conventional appraisal, and there are 2 different ideas, methods on each of those 3 videos. We're not going to introduce any new methods here on this video, but this is about government loans, and there's kind of some good news, bad news things here with FHA and VA loans. We'll just get the bad news out of the way first, is that the first option we talked about on the first video was to go and get another appraiser and get a second appraisal on the property. You don't have that option with FHA and VA loans. FHA and VA each assign a case number to the property, and once that appraisal is done and attached to that case number, that valuation, that appraisal, the appraiser sticks with the property for 6 months. So that option's not there, but all the other options there are available as far as checking the property profile. You can do concessions, you can introduce comparable sales. Basically the same method. The appraiser wants to see at least a couple of different comparable sales. You still have to work through the appraisal management system. So those options are still all on the table. But there is kind of one thing that I do like about VA, and everybody kind of has this consternation and fear about VA appraisers out there. But the VA has always had what's called a random selection method for ordering their appraisals. Even back in the late 80s when I first started in the business, you just didn't call an appraiser and tell him to do a VA appraisal. You ordered it through the VA, and then the VA would do random selection on an appraiser to go out there. So the rest of the industry adopted that 20 years later in 2009, and it just is what it is. But the one thing I do like about VA is that VA, if the appraiser goes out to inspect the property or starts pulling comparable sales, maybe just from his office and looking at sales around there, if based on his initial perusal and research and stuff like that, if he doesn't feel like he is going to hit the value that was given on the sales contract, if that purchase price was agreed at $600,000 and the appraiser just feels like, hey, there's no way I'm going to hit anything close to that, what he will do is he will send back to the lender what is called a tidewater notice. And I don't know why they call it tidewater, because most tides fluctuate quicker than 48 hours. But anyway, the tidewater notice basically gives 48-hour notice to the lender to just say, hey, I'm not going to hit value. Feel free to supply some additional comparable sales. Now, my consternation about this, I'm glad that we've got the heads up, and now we've got advance warning that, hey, we're going to miss the value, so let's put together some more comparable sales. 48 hours, it's what it means. So if you get it on a Friday night, it means that by Sunday night, you got to put in some additional comparables in front of the appraiser. Secondly, I've gone back and I've said, can you please tell me what comparable sales you're looking at? Give me the MLS numbers. Give me some property profile information so I know what basis you're making this decision off of, because if I give him some comparable sales that we say, hey, these are good, he could come back and say, oh yeah, those were the same ones I looked at and I'm still going to miss the value. But you don't have that option. But anyway, you can still go ahead and gather the information, and after the appraisal is done and the appraiser gives you what's called a notice of value on there, you can still do a reconsideration of value that can go back either to the appraiser. If that doesn't accomplish it, you can actually take it back to the regional center for the VA, which for Salt Lake City for the state of Utah is in Denver, Colorado. And I've only had one loan that I had to do that on, where we had to take it all the way back, not just to the regional office or to the local AMC and the VA here, but we had to go and actually take it up to Denver. And a lot of it boils down is if the veteran says that, hey, this is the house that I really want, I understand there's some problems with value, I don't have the available funds to cover the shortage in the appraisal, I feel comfortable with the additional data that my real estate agent has provided to increase the value on this. I would like very much for the VA to say that this value on the sales contract is acceptable for the VA, and I would like to close my loan. And a lot of times, if it gets up to the highest part there, if they feel like it's within spitting distance and stuff like that, they'll just come back and they'll adjust that NOV, that notice of value, and send back and say, here you go, here's your certificate, value $600,000, and you can go ahead and close with that. So that's the difference between your government appraisals and with your conventional appraisals. And they're, again, the market's starting to tick up a little bit. We're seeing more buyer activity. The market has been a little soft on there, and we may see some appraisals missing value. So having these tools in your quiver here is going to be a big help on saving a deal, making a deal work, understanding a little bit about how appraisals work and what wiggle room you have to submit additional information to maybe raise a value up, compromise in a variety of ways, and get into the house that you want with the financing terms that you want. So thanks for coming into thecreditjungle.com. This is George Anderson. Push button, get mortgage professional, and I would be delighted to work with you on your next mortgage transaction. Have a wonderful day.
George of the jungle, strong as he can be.